Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à la réunion du 9 juin. Roll call, on a conseiller Lorrain qui a motivé son absence. À part de ça, tout le monde est présent. On va passer à la déclaration des terres territoriales et un moment de réflexion.
We acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe and the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and Kanyan-Kanhaka peoples. We acknowledge your shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within.
Merci, conseiller Armstrong. Attendu que le Canada est fondé sur les principes qui reconnaissent la suprématie de Dieu, la primauté du droit, prenons un moment de réflexion personnelle. Alors, merci. On passe à l'item numéro 4, addition, effacement ou modification. Alors, si on pourrait rajouter 18A, bulk, occasional large load disposal options in our township. Ça va être moi qui va amener ça. Et puis, 18B, rural crossings update, Councillor Deacon. C'est bon, M. Savoie? C'est bon? Oui. OK. Alors, on va à l'adoption de l'agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. So, motion to approve the agenda as amended. And this is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing, seeing none. Thank you. Item 7, adoption of minutes. Motion to approve the regular council minutes from our May 26th council meeting. This is moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. Item number 8, présentation. On n'en a pas. Numéro 9, délégation, pétition. On n'en a pas. Item 10, consent items. So all items listed under consent items will be enacted by one motion. A majority vote is required for the adoption of consent items. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a request is made prior to the time council votes on the motion that a consent item be separated from that motion. So the separated item would then be addressed immediately after. So motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented, and this is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Deacon, and I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Moving to item 11, reports from departments and council committees. 11A, Administrative Monetary Penalty Systems, AMPS, report PIC 2025-15. That council receives this report dated June 9th, 2025, and approved 1, the proposed new administrative monetary penalty system bylaw, and 2, the proposed bylaw to approve policies in relation to AMPS. Madame Bourdeau, just confirming, so in essence, this is like, we are taking some new responsibilities here. So just confirming, is this a mandatory requirement for us, Madame Bourdeau?
No, it's not a mandatory. We could continue on to proceed the way we are proceeding right now. But some key points that I would like to bring is that this shift from the provincial court system, it's administrative process that streamlines enforcement and adjudication. How it works is that violators receive a penalty notice and can either pay the fine through can pay the fine, or they can go through a screening process, and if necessary, a hearing process. The screening and hearing officers are appointed by the township, and the procedure, and we've had talks with some people who do this for other townships, and the way they work is they are paid per case and not on a regular base. The switch to AMP system, it reduces the court pressure, because there's a lot of demand on our court system, and being a lesser fine than the fines from OPP, or then it reduces the pressure from the courts. It speeds up the resolution times. It's more convenient for the people receiving the notice, because they don't have to go to the court. They don't have to wait for the process. It's more streamlined. It improves efficiency, and the revenue stays with the township. So the revenue is not, right now, when a fine is issued, we have to pay the court cost. Whatever they recover is separated with other townships within the Prescott-Russell area. Even if one municipality would not give any fine this year, they will still receive money because other townships give fines. So lately, in the past few years, we've seen that there's very few amounts sent back to the township for those reasons. The fine schedule that has been updated in the bylaw, so because some of our fines hadn't been reviewed in numerous years, so a lot of fines were due for review, and we've been waiting for this process to review them, because having this process, we don't have to go through the Attorney General's office for our fines. So the other thing is that I believe the fire code and the building code will be authorizing us to go through the AMPS process for those infraction notices also. So presently, we send the amount of money sent in fines to the court is approximately $18,000 a year. So this year we're up to $8,000 of infractions sent to court. So the amount that we receive back is hard for us to give you an exact amount, because they send all the money from the fines from the fire, fines from building, fines from OPP. They just send us a check for POA fines, so it's hard for us to determine what's paid, what's not paid. We don't have any control. Like at one point, I think we had an invoice sent to us for fees, and so it's like up in the air. So this way, we'd be able to administer and have good control of our system, and we'd be able to say, okay, well, this is how much we gave, this is how much we received, and all the fees that are added on to administer this, they're added on to the fine. So if we do a plate check, there's a fee from MTO that's added on to the fine. If there's a fee for collection agency, that fee is added on to the fine. So the only extra fees that we will see is if somebody wants to have a hearing, then that the hearing officer, that fee, we won't recover it because they're allowed to be heard.
When you mean by fees, that's the cost we would take on, like the township would take on that
Yes.
cost, okay. Okay, how is this in United Counties? Are there other municipalities in the counties that are doing this? Which ones are they?
Clarence Rockland, Hawkesbury,
Alfred-Plantagenet is also doing it.
most cities are like.
And they have been doing it for a while, or is this a new
No,
ability
it's
for us?
been, like the city of Ottawa's been doing it for a long time, and so has Cornwall. But the smaller municipalities have switched over, I'd say, in the past, like maybe 4 years.
Okay.
Everybody's switching over.
Is there a reason this didn't come out earlier for us if they've been doing this for over 4 years? Just
Because-
curiosity.
Because the court costs weren't so much, and because everybody was giving fines, like, so Rockland was giving fines, Hawkesbury was giving fines, so the pot was bigger. So everybody, then they would take all the fines and split it between all the townships. But now, Rockland's not in the pot, Hawkesbury's not in the pot, Alfred-Plantagenet is not. So now the only people that are giving tickets and going to court is us, Castleman, Nation. So there's not a lot of money. And I think that we're giving our money to other townships because they're not so active in, not that we give a lot of fines, but we do give some at occasion, and some other municipalities don't. So they don't give out fines, but they do receive money.
Okay. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Armstrong.
I've got a few, so I'll let everybody else come back as we can go in a cycle here. Having some experience in this system. First off, it mentions in the report a screening and hearing officer bylaw, but I did not see that. Who are the screening and hearing officers, and how are they appointed?
Madame Mildeau?
Yes. So the reason why the bylaw is not in this package, it will come up.
Once we approve it.
Once this is approved. We don't want to enter into a contract with people before the bylaw is approved.
Of
So
course.
once this bylaw is approved, then we'll discuss with some people that we've approached that do it for other townships, who have experience and who have knowledge of
So-
the
So
process.
just to clarify, so is it safe to assume that it's a unbiased third party that would be doing that? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
My question, the bylaw is expected, or at least it reads, coming into force on the 1st of July. Would we have another bylaw to appoint somebody by the 1st of July?
Madame Mildeau?
That's the intention.
That would be the intention.
We just need some time to ensure that, because we have to make sure everything works properly. We have taken some steps right now, but all our notices, our fines have to change the format. So we're working on those changes, but we gave ourselves some leeway to make sure the administration is done properly.
Merci. Follow-up?
No, let's,
Okay.
anybody else and then come back.
Sure, thank you. Councillor Deacon?
I'm not opposed to the concept. I did have a concern in the conflict of interest in the political interference bylaws, especially is that there's a sole reporting structure in there, and I think I would prefer to see a dual reporting on when issues arise and the hearing or screening officer is expected to report. It mentions Director of Public Safety, but I think it would be prudent to have two reports relating to conflict of interest issues.
Madame Bourdeau, pour les autres municipalités qui font ça, est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui ont, eux?
Je vais laisser M. Laplante
OK.
répondre parce qu'il a travaillé sur ces politiques-là. Je
OK,
pense qu'il
merci.
répond aux autres.
So based on all the policies and bylaws that we've encountered, pretty much everybody has the same bylaws and policies. It's all copied off from, I believe it's Toronto or somebody out west that was the first to implement this. So everybody, their bylaws all written and worded the same way. So originally, what we see in the other bylaws is that they report directly to the clerks. So in ours, we change it to the Director of Public Safety. But it's always it was always one person reporting the perceived, not infraction, but perceived conflict of interest.
And so can you just clarify why we chose the Director of Public Safety as opposed to the clerk as everywhere else? Was there a rationale behind that?
The rationale when I wrote the bylaw was more or less, since we are going to be the one leading this this project, that the director would be the lead in any complaints made about the project itself or the way we handle business.
Thank you. Councillor Deacon?
Yeah, I'd just like to understand if there's any risk or downside to having dual reporting on the conflict of interest that I'm perhaps not seeing.
Monsieur Laplante?
We haven't encountered any comments from other cities that would suggest that they had any issues with the way they were doing their reporting at this time. So I'm not sure how to answer it, because we haven't encountered that issue.
It's not something that was kind of thought about because it's not an issue right now.
Correct.
in all the
It wasn't
research
brought
you've done.
up. It wasn't brought up with other cities. Like they did not indicate any issues doing this this reporting the way that it's formatted right now.
So just to clarify, like some municipalities have the director and some municipalities have the clerk. So we opted to go with the director. But be it one or the other, it's been like what we've seen, it's been one person doing the review.
OK. Est-ce qu'on pourrait juste avoir, pour clarification, combien de municipalités où est-ce que vous avez reçu cette information?
J'ai contacté ou lu à peu près, je vous dirais, une dizaine ou une quinzaine de différents bylaws. Puis c'est aussi à noter qu'il y a beaucoup de municipalités que le département de réglementation tombe en dessous de l'office de la greffière ou du greffier. Donc, la personne qui se rapporte, ça reste leur directeur de service.
OK, je comprends. Merci. Follow-up?
In some other bylaws, I can't remember exactly where, but I do believe that the CAO was included as a report in other places. So I just, again, maybe I'm being overly cautious, but I would rather see, especially in those areas where we're looking at interference and conflict of interest, that there be two reports listed. If I may have
Please.
one more question. It mentions the option to pay online. Can I get an update on, is online payment to be launched for Russell Township in the coming couple of months?
Monsieur Dagenet, Monsieur Godin.
Je peux répondre.
Oui.
We are already doing online fine payments for our parking infractions, so this would be no different. It's just that it would be the same portal. There's a unique number identifying the penalty notice. The user would enter their plate number with the penalty notice or whichever criteria is required, and they would go directly to that fine amount. So it's already built in our system right now.
So when they enter their ticket number or whatever, it tells you the amount that's owed and so on?
Correct. It's a two-factor
Authentication?
verification system.
Okay.
So, but it will tell them the exact amount that they owe.
Merci. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I have some of the concerns of Councillor Deacon, knowing that in my current case, and the details somebody can ask me about later, but in the current case, it was you, Mr. Mayor, deciding to have me charged with, in a meeting with Richard Godin and the Director of Enforcement. And I know that because there is a requirement in the, for disclosure in the judicial system. And that is something that will be heard in a week in the provincial court. But that seems to be a problem because I can't see here where we're going to avoid political interference in the system, where we have it where there's a judge or a justice of the peace already adjudicating outside, when now we have somebody who's contracted to the township directly, and I am concerned with the interference in the system and the potential for a great deal of interference in the system. And as it stands right there with the conflict of interest, the way it's written, I mean, I can't support the this bylaw as it's written right now.
So Councillor Armstrong, for clarification purposes, what would there be any environment where you feel that it would be appropriate for Township directly to manage this from top to bottom?
Not from top to bottom, no. That's the key. And as a bit
Councillor.
as with Councillor Deacon saying, there's two reports on the integrity of the system. I can't see that, and I think that's a potential problem throughout, and we may have that potential problem elsewhere. As I said, I know all of that because if it's in the judicial system. If it was in the administrative system, where a hearing officer only has the Statutory Powers Procedure Act, then full disclosure is not required under that system.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments on that? Conseiller Lalonde.
Well, I appreciate that we're looking at making changes that help to improve the system, so I appreciate that work, to be looking and being curious about what's going on in other municipalities and how we can do things more efficiently. And so in the general sense, I think I support it, but I recognize the concern around conflict and the idea of maybe dual reporting to make sure that the process is transparent and that there's no risk of any conflict. Leaving that aside, though, I mean, I had a whole bunch of notes. I don't think I'm going to go through them all, but I read in places where it's comments are being made in the opening report, the beginning of the report, sorry, that foreseeable increases in annual operating expenses are likely, and so and the impact that this will quite likely have on human resource requirements, that where we might have to add salary or cost. There's references to in places about increasing the level of the fines and for things like driving over a fire hose. That one's used as an example. It would be a much higher amount to be paid, but I'm just wondering, it makes me wonder, you know, what are we going to recover more of? How many more dollars do we expect to recover? Is there a way to know, you know, how many unpaid fines have we had in the last few years? I know in some cases there have been fines issued and not paid. Is this system going to ensure a much more efficient way of collecting those monies? And you know, how does this make that better and more efficient? And the best practices in other communities, I was quickly checking out Kingston. I mean, a lot of municipalities do have them, and I take an unbulldozed point that the monies coming back end up being shared. Maybe we're not getting our fair share, but I guess for me, it's just to boil this all down to, I'd like to see what, if we can, to do a little more financial analysis on it, to see what the expected return on investment's going to be here in fine collection and taking it away from the courts. Sorry, there's a reference made to, if you'll bear with me, that it will actually enhance public safety and protect municipal resources. I just maybe would like to appreciate more what exactly how exactly that happens, how this system makes that better and improves that area. So there's a budget side. If we could, so I see it, rightly or wrongly, coming back to us closer to budget time, unless I can hear tonight that the budget considerations are insignificant, and that could be explained to me better why it would be, and that the return on investment will be well worth the exercise compared to the monies that were being left behind or uncollected previously. So it's a bit of an open-ended question, but it's about budget. I mean, are we looking at additional resources, staff, other than just the consultant being hired? And do we know what kind of additional monies this is going to bring into Township as a way to, I know these things are implied, but they're not explicit, they're implicit. And I guess I'm looking for a little more of the explicit side of the thing. I'm not against the idea, and I think if other municipalities are doing this, we should be looking at it closely for ourselves. And so I leave that out there. There's a bunch of questions in there. They could go to a few different people. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. If I understand correctly, if I'm feeling the pulse of the council, I think, is there a desire to take this out, pull this out? Yeah, okay. So we will pull item 11A out. Il faut pas faire un vote pour tout ça tout de suite. Hein? Est-ce qu'on fait un vote pour ça? Oui, c'est à la fin, ouais. Oh, follow up. The way you're looking at me, I thought I was missing something. Don't use those eyes.
No.
Conseiller Lalonde, follow up.
Mostly admiration. No, so if some of the questions I just asked, if anybody popcorn questions, wants to take a few of them to put me at ease on some of those points, I would be.
I think, if I may, Conseiller Lalonde, I think there's quite a few questions there, and I think with what Councillor Deakin raised as well, and Councillor Armstrong, I think there is a fair bit of information that should probably kind of get digested with the team and then come back to us in a more wholesome report. Especially if we look at the financial piece that you brought up, I think it'd be, I would like to see certainly in a report with that kind of detail, with some backing and something I can kind of sit back on and say, okay, yes, we did do that. Here are, it was mentioned by Officer Laplante. We talked to, I think I wrote it down here, about 10 to 15. I would like to kind of have that detail, just so we can, when we make that decision to move forward, that it's based on solid evidence that we're comfortable with, or not go that way, whichever way council decides to go. So I think it's probably prudent to defer it and come back with a more wholesome report in that sense, if I'm feeling the pulse correctly. Councillor Armstrong?
Just one more comment. In our item 10, in our consent items, we reviewed the minutes of the United Counties meeting, and from there, I went and I looked up the statistics report on the Provincial Offences Office of the United Counties, and they have some very interesting statistics and financial information
Yes.
in that report. So when it comes back, if we could have at least the guts of that statistical analysis. Yes, it's a United Counties based, it's not a Russell Township based, but it was a good report, I think, on what you can expect to see coming back.
Yeah, and I think, Councillor Armstrong, I think that we have here, certainly locally, we have those stats specifically for Russell Township. So I would probably think that would make sense. Council, everyone kind of good? Okay, so we'll move to item B. So 11A will be separated. Item B, sign on lots with 60 meters or more of frontage, report PIC 2025-16. That council receive that report dated June 9th, 2025, and approve the proposed bylaw as recommended in this report to amend the sign bylaw 2016-052 to allow for the addition of signs on large commercial or industrial properties with wide frontage. So I believe this item came about because we have a newer business that has come up, and there were some challenges with the existing signage requirements with that. So first of all, a big thanks to Madame Bordeaux and her team. They went and met with the business to see if there was anything within the bylaw, and so just maybe a little bit of an update on that, Madame Bordeaux.
Yes, we did meet with the business owner. The difficulty was the size of the property and the amount of signs allowed on that property, and having a lot of display outside. They found that it was a challenge to only have 2 signs on the property. So instead of allowing one more sign for one specific business, since probably most businesses with larger size lots have the same issues. That's why it was decided to do an exemption or an amendment to the bylaw, which would allow people with bigger frontage to have an extra sign.
So if I can just get confirmation there, the original intent of that signage bylaw for commercial was really to avoid, and I believe when I first moved here it was like that, like there was like a over amount of signs on the main street, and there was like really a hodgepodge. Everyone would put up, especially those big plastic signs where you put letters on and stuff. And so the idea was to kind of clean that up to make it more. And so in this particular case, we have a much wider business that relies on that type of signage. So this is just to allow for that. We're not actually allowing more signs on what we typically had, right, in this particular case?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't change the amount of signs. It only changes the amount of signs for bigger properties.
For more
So-
that have more
Yes.
frontage, okay. And could I just ask, did we work with EcoDev on this at all in terms of reviewing that signage, just because it's commercial, with commercial?
I don't recall speaking with
EcoDev.
I think some of the comments came from EcoDev.
Okay.
But
I would think that the only comment, I'm really happy to see this move forward and that we're being responsive in a responsible way with our new commercial businesses. The only thing I would say is that when it relates to commercial or industrial, I would like to see CODEV more involved in the process, and just to make sure that we're still following the reason why we have this bylaw, but working with them to make sure that we're responsive in a responsible way. And I think we are in this particular case, but just moving forward, I think that it would make sense for me that, you know, we're really trying from a commercial development perspective to grow that aspect of the township. And so I think just to ensure that we stay user-friendly in that sense. So thank you very much for bringing that. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm got nothing against the bylaw amendment here. I'm just questioning, why was 60 chosen as opposed to 50 or 70?
Sure, great question. Madame Bordeaux?
Why? It's nothing very specific. We kind of looked at where it would apply and how it would apply to the properties already in existence in the community. And that's basically how we made sense of that measurement.
So we'll find other properties that may want to request a permit for additional signs on their property as well, as I understand this.
Yeah, so
Yes.
depending on the sign, Madame Bordeaux?
Okay.
Yeah, but they would have to meet that size requirement.
Okay.
What's the average, do we have a ballpark? Let's say, I don't know, like, for example, Giant Tiger, how much frontage do they have?
They do have quite a bit of frontage because they have frontage on 2 streets.
Okay. So they may be able to benefit from that exemption as
Same
well.
thing like Emblem Ford has frontage on 2 streets.
Okay. Any other questions? Conseiller Lalonde.
Thank you. Maybe to your point, Mr. Mayor, about maybe the opportunity to have had EcoDev involved. I echo that sentiment. And to Councillor Armstrong's point, 60 meters or 55 meters. I mean, we're going, and I understand it's coming from a proponent who has a business that is looking for some help to get a sign up, but would there have been any interest to solicit comments or suggestions from other business owners of the same type in terms of size of lot? Or are we good enough to go with this just on the basis of one application for a change or an amendment to the bylaw? I'm just, any curiosity or interest to look beyond just the one to solicit maybe the views, ideas, in the sense of some maybe in the case where they might have been consulted or solicited, say, well, listen, 50 meters is also a pretty big space. Most people don't have that here, and couldn't we get it for 50 meters instead of 60 meters? So if maybe we can just get a comment on the level of comfort with just the one business being the basis for making the amendment to the bylaw.
Madame Bordeaux?
The only other company consulted, it's one of the major sign company in the area, and they had other ideas that were brought up, but it would open the door to a lot of additional signs, which I did not want to encourage, because then we go back to the original case where we would have seen a lot of signs. And when we spoke about how big of a frontage, that measurement came up and seemed like it was a good measurement but I did not survey other businesses, because it is obvious to me that if I go in town and I ask who wants an extra sign, everybody's gonna want an extra sign.
Yeah, and then we get back to the original situation. Conseiller Lalonde, follow-up?
Thanks. So, which means to say that then we're committed to the 60 meters and that anything comes in under that it's got the 60 meter as a minimum standard requirement.
There's always exemptions.
But unless otherwise, 60 meters seems to be the start point for that bigger sign or that extra sign.
There's also a distance between signs that we have in the bylaw. So you have to have.
Has to be wide enough for that distance to
30
come into play.
meters between each sign. So,
C'est ça la logique du 60 dans ce cas-là. C'est ça que. Parce que sinon,
Ouais.
50, ça ne marcherait pas.
C'est pris en considération dans la calcul du 60, right?
OK. Parfait. Merci. Autres questions? Other questions? Merci beaucoup. Alors, we're moving to item C. Festival licenses. So the council receives the EcoDev 2025-03 dated June 9th, 2025, and approve a special occasion permit liquor license for the Russell Meet Me on Main Street public event held on July 15th, 2025. Anything to add? Là, je demande à Monsieur Dagenet. Non, c'est pas mal standard. Madame Bourdeau, est-ce que vous recommandez ça?
on n'a aucun problème avec ça. Les comtés ont aussi approuvé notre fermeture de rue.
Ah, OK. Good. Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Non? OK, merci. Item D, Annual Landfill Monitoring Report. That council receives report ISPW 2025-13 dated June 9th, 2025, and acknowledge the receipt of the 2024 Annual Landfill Monitoring Report. So we're only acknowledging receipt. As I went through it, I didn't see any red flags or major crises in the report. The site remains under control and continues to follow the natural attenuation process. That said, I did note some new administrative and legal actions being recommended this year. So including, I think, a potential easement acquisition, a proposed expansion of the contamination attenuation zone, and the submission of a groundwater investigation plan to MCEP. So I would just ask in your follow-ups here, Monsieur Bourgon, is there some considerations that we should be taking in next year's budget in planning for those? Are there any concerns in terms of preparing for those new aspects that are added to it? Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So we are working on the plan to bring items to council attention during the deliberation of the budget for 2026.
OK. Parfait, merci. Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Questions on this? Councillor Armstrong?
Just the one comment that if we could get, prior to the budget session, a good idea of what we'll have to have done and budget for in that budget session so that we can compare it back to the report. That's my only concern.
Monsieur
Because
Bourgon.
it's a long report, 1,100 pages.
Yeah, that's just weekend reading, Councillor Armstrong. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if I had just a weekend to do it with nothing else to do with that.
No, I'm just kidding. Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Bourgon, in terms of our budgeting process, we typically will have all that information normally as we do the budget. So when there are requests for funds or projects, they will be explained as a natural process for the budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's usually how we do it, right? Yeah.
Exactly, and when we, it's gonna be presented under the capital project likely, so we always put a reference of where that's coming from.
Exactement. OK, merci. Autre question? Conseiller Lalonde?
Just, I think it's a pretty simple question, but there's a requirement I notice on 4 properties. Is it 4 to go out, or 2 properties to go out 4 times a year now to check their well water? Is that typically done by our own staff, by your department? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Monsieur Bourgon?
Yeah, merci, Monsieur Maire. So yeah, so there are several properties where we do inspect their wells. It's done by the consultant. So the consultant takes care of the monitoring to bring the samples to the lab, and they're also in charge of giving the result directly to those homeowners.
Merci. And that ensures transparency, a third-party thing, so. Any other questions or comments from members of council? No, seeing none. Thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. Bien apprécié. Item E, entente avec Rogers. Alors que le Conseil reçoive le rapport ISWAT 2025-03 daté du 9 juin 2025 et autorise l'administration à signer le contrat de location avec Rogers Communication Inc. Rogers. Alors ça, c'est pas mal standard. That's for the Russell Tower only, I believe. Anything to add on that, Monsieur Bourgon?
Non, Monsieur le Maire. Donc, we have similar agreements with Bell, with ExploreNet. So this time around, Roger reached out, and yes, it's to install only on the Russell Tower.
OK, merci.
So the agreement was reviewed by our legal, and in terms of payment, we're following the same
Same
format
rate kind of thing,
that we
yeah.
have with the other companies.
Formidable, merci beaucoup. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? Seeing none. Moving to item F. That council receive report PR 2025-09 dated June 9th, 2025, and approve the request from the Russell Ag Society for a special occasion permit for the public event for the bar operations for the annual Russell Fair being held August 14th to August 17th. Again, this is a standard request we get every year. Anything to add on that, Madame Bourdeau, Monsieur Dagenet? Oui. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? Conseiller Lalonde.
Just clarification, the liquor license, just to remind me of the time period in which they're allowed to serve liquor under that license permit is up to what time?
I think it's standard, follows the Ontario liquor law license. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madame Bordeaux.
I believe it's one, but I'm not 100% sure.
Madame Guittard.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. Because we do have a municipal alcohol policy, so we do not follow the Ontario regulation. We close earlier
Okay.
than Ontario. We close at 1. So we
Okay.
supersede the regulation with
We
Ontario.
closed earlier.
Yep.
Thank you for the correction, Madame Guittard. Make me look bad here. I appreciate it.
'Cause it's my report.
Oh, I'm looking
There
there.
you go.
Thank you. Follow-up, Conseiller Lalonde?
Yeah, I think that's why I wanted to get that clarification, because I thought it was sooner. I've been told that some have told me that they stopped serving liquor at midnight.
Madame Guittard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Typically, they could stop around 12:30, 1:45, but at 1, everything needs to be closed, and they have typically 30 minutes to let everybody go. So,
Okay. Are we good? Any other questions, comments on this? No? Moving to item G. Que le Conseil reçoive le rapport PR 2025-10 en date du 9 juin 2025 et 1. Refuse la demande de subvention ponctuelle de 1 000 pour le Club optimiste de Russell et approuve la demande de subvention en nature d'une valeur de 537 pour l'utilisation de la salle. Et item 2, refuse la demande de subvention ponctuelle de 1 000 de la paroisse Saint-Jacques-en-Brun. Alors, in both cases, I think these represent great events for the community led by great organizations, but I will concur with the report's direction. I think that we are good to give in-kind support for these events, but there is no justifications to support them with additional dollars at this stage. In both these cases, these are fundraising events that raise funds, and I think they demonstrate that they do have funds that are raised. So adding dollars to that is really a donation on our behalf, and so if we want to do a donation, that's a different thing. But in this stage, based on our policy, I think it's in line with our policy. Madame Guittard?
thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I concur with what you just mentioned. And we also are already giving some in-kind, some substantial amount of
Yes.
money to both organizations, so I think it's just.
Great. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm just, I understand we're following our policy. That's not a problem. Now I'm going to ask that perhaps sometime in the future we have a relook at our policy. Both organizations are generating substantial revenue compared to others in our township. But because they generate substantial revenue, I'm not sure that's a reason in and of itself to deny grants in our policy. So I would just have a look sometime in the next year, because it's a bylaw, I believe, isn't it? That alcohol policy, or sorry, alcohol,
No,
that
the grants, the
grant policy, that we can have a look at relooking at some of our limits, et cetera, that we have in that policy, and perhaps bringing it up to date with some of the other expenses that some of these organizations have as well.
Fair enough. Anything to add on that, Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just want to clarify that, for instances, we did not mention that they're generating revenues. What we've mentioned is that their fundraising event was already in the positive. So therefore, and we're already, encouraging them, supporting them through in-kind. So I think that's the mandate of the program. So we do understand that they have expenses. That's why they are doing fundraising, to be able to recover those expenses. So.
Yeah, I think it boils down to a question of limited resources, and so we have a certain budget every year for our grants, and just trying to optimize based on the demand that we do get. So the in-kind is a good way to support. So for example, the Rib Fest is a good one. I think we've calculated the in-kind value, and correct me if I'm wrong, but roughly at around $2,000 based on the added security around the space and so on. So it's just a question of finding the right balance in doing that. And we do get a lot of requests, and we review that on a regular basis. In terms of opening the policy, though, could you, Monsieur Godin, without putting you on the spot, can you just remind council process-wise to do that?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Bonsoir, Chambon du Conseil. Process-wise, we typically try to keep our policies and bylaws relatively up to date. We do have a process where the clerk's office provides all directors with a list of their bylaws and all of those that haven't been updated within the last 5 years. It's not a strict policy that we always update it every 5 years, but we do have a look, and when we do see that we need something looked at and upgraded or refreshed, the administration will usually bring it to council as part of our business plans or as part of our budgets to update them. If council wishes that we explore a certain policy, by all means, council can propose it, and we can definitely look at working that into our plans.
Yeah, so the point being is that there is a process, a regular process, but as a council member, you have the privilege of asking to review something at any time, as long as you get a mover and seconder to move forward in that, and we put a notice, a motion of looking at that and having that discussion. That makes sense? Councillor Deakin?
I do think that this policy needs to be looked at again. Not a huge priority given other things that the Parks and Recreation Department is managing right now from my perspective. But I remember the very first budget session of this term where we were talking about the value of the investment from the township into our community through cash and in-kind, wanting to see that calculated and reflected and that story told so that folks know, one, that the grants are available, as well as two, that I think it's an excellent example of townships' leadership and community spirit to be supporting organizations. Two things that I wanted to add on the discussion of if and when the policy is reopened. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, we were taking a look at it from a perspective of growth, and as our township grows, the diversity of organizations grows, the mandates change and shift and expand, which is exciting to see. A lot of people in our community are finding their place here and finding ways to get engaged, as well as joining the longer term, more traditional clubs, les paroisses. And I was really pleased to see when looking comparably year over year that there is an increase in the amount of cash and in kind. I think I looked back 5 years or 10 years, that reflects the growth of the community, so that as the community grows, there's room both for new organizations to take shape, as well as for some of those more longer standing organizations to receive extra support to deliver more events, more engagements, more community involvement for the new folks in the community as well. The second piece that I wanted to mention is that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee does have on its agenda for this Thursday to look at user fees for space as well, and for nonprofit organizations specifically. And so that would be through the user fee bylaw that they would be looking, but I think it also would touch on another flavor of how the township is potentially being asked to, the Township Council is being asked to support community organizations of all shapes and sizes that have that community well-being mandate. So I just wanted to add that, and to, again, back to my first point, say that this is something that's been on my mind since the very first year and the very first budget that we looked at. And I think that within the next couple of years, my hope is that that we would reopen the policy at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. Anything else? Any other comments? Seeing none. Move to item 12, rapport d'un investigateur ou l'ombudsman, on n'en a pas. Numéro 13, avis de motion, on n'en a pas. Item 14, question period on meeting of the day. So questions must be in relation to items on the agenda. Before asking, well, there's only Julian here, so no questions? Okay. No. And I'm glad to see that you're feeling better, Julian. That's good. All right. So seeing and hearing that there are no questions, we'll just move to item 15. So 15, motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees. I need a mover and seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Deakin. It is on the table. I believe we have a request to remove 11A, c'est ça? Oui. Alors, I need a mover and seconder to remove that item. Moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. I'll call for the vote for the removal of the item. And carried. Thank you. So motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees, with the exception of item A. And this is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Deakin. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. And now we go back to item 11A. Bear with me for a second. Alors que le Conseil reçoive le rapport PIC 2025-15 daté du 9 juin 2025 et approuve le règlement sur le nouveau processus proposé pour le système de sanctions administratives pécuniaires, et 2, le règlement proposé visant à approuver les politiques relatives au SSAP. Questions, comments, and amendments. Do I need to move or seconder to put it on the table, this item? It was, no? Good. So questions, comments, amendments on this item. Councillor Deakin?
I'd like to request that we defer this.
Thank you. So there's a request for deferral of this item. Is there a seconder for it? It's seconded by Councillor Armstrong. I'll call for the vote to defer the item. All in favor to defer the item? Thank you. So we're deferring the item for it to come back with the additional details that we discussed. Does that make sense for staff? Monsieur Godin, Madame Bourdeau?
Yes, I did take some notes, and hopefully I have all your comments, and we can bring back more information.
Merci beaucoup. Okay, fantastic. So that's done. We move to item 16, bylaws. So we have some bylaws to remove here.
C'était sauf la dernière.
Numéro 79 et 80. Okay, so motion that council approve bylaw 2025-081 to, inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. And this is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Conseiller Lalonde. Call for the vote. All in favor and passed. Thank you. C'est beau, Monsieur Savoie? Ça marche? Ouais? OK. Numéro 18, new business reports, we have none. Number 18, other business presented by council members. So 18A, bulk or occasional large load disposal option for Township. So council members, you would have seen the response to an email from a resident just last week around the issue around cost for minimum loads at our local transfer station. We have, in the past year or two, received a couple of those around pricing and some relating to the availability of service on the weekend. And so it seems we're kind of in an environment where there is no competition. There is one business that takes care of this aspect for our residents. So I would love your thoughts, council members, on is this something that we should look at requesting staff to do two things. One, perhaps engage with GFL Environmental to explore any options to improve pricing structure, i.e. to allow for smaller loads or some tiered pricing to reflect occasional or minimal use for our residents. And I understand that this is above and beyond what Township offers as a service, but I feel that in representing our residents, Township is in a better position to do that than residents coming together trying to do that. And two, in that request, also maybe connect with neighboring municipalities, for example, Nation, to explore the feasibility of a special arrangement that would allow Russell residents to access alternative dumps in this particular case, including potential weekend availability at a modest premium for compared to their residents, but still possibly a better option than what our residents currently have. And so I'd just like your thoughts, members of council, on this. Is this something that you feel is of value? Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's exploring some of the options is definitely of value. As I understand it, and somebody may be able to enlighten me here, but the current price for the at the transfer station is about $150 a ton, and if you come within less than half a ton, they charge you $75, period.
72, yeah.
72, okay. So that means if I bring in 100 kilos or 500 kilos, makes no difference. It's still the $72, which means that for most people in their private automobiles, you're arriving with a load well below a half a ton. And I think we can get some tiered pricing at below the half-ton level. That would be something valuable to our residents.
I think it's important to understand that this is a private business and it's entirely in their privy to do whatever they want. I just feel that, as a municipality, if we ask, perhaps there might be more open to listening. I might be completely wrong, but that's why I think it's a good opportunity for us to do that. And if nothing else, then the neighboring municipality issues.
Agreed.
Which is a potential as well, I suspect. Conseiller Lalonde?
Yeah, I agree. I think we should do both. I think we should sit down with GFL. I mean, I've been here over 40 years. The last 10 years, a carload was free. with a nice wave, and then it became something else, and the small little trailer load was 38 or 36 bucks, and then it went up, and there almost doesn't seem, I'm sure there is a rhyme and a reason for it, but to your point, Mr. Mayor, I mean, they know they're the only game in town. And I think as a municipality, and the business that, we can send over there with 20,000 residents, it's time, if we haven't done it, to sit down and see what better deal we might be able to get from them. And at the same time, I think we should look elsewhere too. We should see whether we have other alternatives, because at $72 now for a carload, wow, like that's, you're bringing 4 little bags of garbage and they're saying, I'm sorry, it's 75. I find that's a little outrageous at this point. I hope that other municipalities might be interested. I mean, bringing your garbage from one municipality to the other is not too popular an idea these days. Most people don't want anybody's garbage, but I mean, I go cycling around Winchester, their dump, we should explore those opportunities. I couldn't agree more. It shouldn't be this or that. It should be the two things looked at, and sit down with the GFL guys, say, listen, we're getting a lot of complaints. Is there something you can do about this? So I applaud the ideas.
Councillor Deacon?
Yeah, I really struggle with this one, knowing that it's not currently considered in the municipal, in the township's role to be negotiating with private companies, as you said. I feel for the residents that are struggling with those fees going up. Waste is waste. We all create it, some of us more than others. And I don't know if I can support the direction that this is going out of respect for the resourcing of the administration and all of the things that we're trying to accomplish this term. I just don't, I struggle because I feel for the residents, but I also don't see this as a priority. I think perhaps if I were to support one of the directions, it might be to look at the other municipal options where there is, certain collaboration, certain discussions that happen between municipalities. We can point to mutual aid agreements that we have and such with the nation, for example. But I'm struggling with this one. I don't know if I can really get my full-hearted support behind it tonight.
Thank you. Conseiller Lalonde?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, not so much to get into some sort of a negotiation, but I think it would be important for the first time to articulate the concerns of the township. It may be more of just a meet and greet session without expecting anything more than just sharing the concerns that on the part of residents, and the fact that it's coming to staff more often, that at least they have an idea of the concern that we have over this. More than anything else, I think would be a good first step.
Monsieur Bourgon, vos pensées là-dessus?
I'm questioning myself where to begin with that one. One, if council gives the administration the direction to look more into this, we'll have to pick and choose of what we're not gonna do this year. We're already, if you look at the business plan, our strat plan, there's a lot of items on the books right now. There's stuff that we'll have to put aside if I need to, or if I am to focus more on this one. We already, and second point to that, staff already have several discussions with GFL on several topics throughout the past years. We are working for our resident in a sense that we still manage to keep the leafing yard free at the transfer station. If it wouldn't be from the work that staff did so far in the current contract that we had, resident would be charged heavily for the leafing yard that people are bringing to the transfer station. GFL are incurring several, lots of costs to bring that to their station in Moose Creek. Residents do have the flexibility to go and look elsewhere. there are other private landfill in the area. So our residents do have the flexibility to look not only to GFL, but other facilities. I would caution council to look at neighboring municipality. Everybody's going through the same type of issues, landfill coming to capacity or different types of issue. I don't think it's a good idea to start and like anchor or promote that to our resident to go and use the neighboring landfill site. But that's just a comment from staff. But I think the main point here is if we are to look into those options, there's definitely items that we for sure won't have time to accomplish this year.
So calling another municipality is not going to take a month here, like, and with all due respect. I mean, in terms of timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, am I missing the requirement of time for this? I'm clearly not seeing the amount of work that's involved here, and so I just need clarity on that. I believed it's a question of calling GFL and saying, is there any way we're getting pressures from our residents? Is there any way that we can look at pricing for smaller loads? Yes, no, no, okay, thank you very much. Is that problematic doing that? Two, going to neighboring municipalities, I get it if we start doing research and trying to figure that out, but we have connections with our municipalities. Is that just an email to find out, is that something that is of interest? No, it's not. Yes, it is. What would it look like? Here it is. I'm missing the point here because clearly I feel it's not that onerous to do that. So perhaps if you can enlighten me on that, I would appreciate that.
Like I mentioned, GFL, we already had a discussion for the leaf and yard, so I'm not expecting the conversation to go any different for solid waste. But one phone call leads to another. If I call the other municipality, they'll have to look onto their site, call another meeting. So next thing you know, like it creates a snowball in no time when we start digging into those little. And at the end of the day, from the administration's point of view, it's a private business.
It's a private business, but we're asking for a service for our residents that we take care of 90% of the rest of the waste for them, right? So I'm struggling with that too. Councillor Deakin?
Yeah, it sounds like a glass half full, glass half empty challenge here. I think this discussion is really important for us to have as a council. Like I said before, I'm struggling with the administration's involvement in it. And more than ever, since those questions were asked and responded to, I'm hoping that somebody in the community picks up this little business opportunity to be picking up and doing full loads for their neighbors. I don't know what else to say. Like I said, I feel for people that are seeing costs go up left, right, and center and struggling to pay their bills and in over their heads in terms of what's on their property and what they're accumulating. And it's not on a bigger scale looking at provincial strategy. You know, there is no silver bullet solution for solid waste. And it's a serious issue that our society needs to look at.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. So just to get a pulse from the remaining council members, if I ask staff to look into this, is there support from council or not so? Councillor Armstrong?
If we can just get a list of what other options are available, because most people in Township of Russell only know of the transfer station at VARS. If there are other options for our citizens, then maybe we can just have those listed somewhere and don't necessarily go and give us negotiated contracts or whatever. Just give the residents some idea of what their options are to begin with. And then if that turns out to be a disaster or whatever, then we can look into more detail.
OK. Monsieur Bourgon, est-ce que ça serait quelque chose qui est faisable? Parce que vous avez dit qu'il y a des compagnies privées où ce qu'on peut le faire. Est-ce qu'on peut juste ajouter cette information-là sur notre site?
On peut, mais encore une fois, je ferai attention à ce qu'on l'information mise sur le site web à cet effet-là. Si on advenait qu'on oublie une compagnie, on voudrait, c'est un peu comme on met pas toutes les coffee shops de la municipalité ou c'est un peu à cet effet-là, il faudrait être prudent là, dans l'information qu'on met pour les autres.
Mais je pense que de la façon qu'on l'adresse, c'est « Here are some other options ». En quelque part sur notre site web, si quelqu'un dit « Hey, c'est pas juste, vous ne me mettez pas », mais on peut le rajouter aussi. On ne parle pas de sans choix ici, là. Corrige-moi si il n'y aura pas beaucoup de choix, là, ici, là.
Puis je dis pas nécessairement le contraire, c'est plus c'est des points que l'administration doit quand même faire attention. Puis,
je comprends.
qu'on couvre tous ces aspects.
Est-ce qu'on serait conseiller Lalonde?
Moi, au moins, si ça serait d'apprendre ou si on a même l'option, premièrement, de le rapporter au conseil, à savoir si on a même l'option d'apporter des vidanges à d'autres municipalités ou même pas. Est-ce qu'il serait même acceptable de nous laisser emmener ça? Moi, j'aimerais savoir ça en premier avant évidemment, parce que it may mean that we don't put anything up on the website if a quick call, and it's just a yes or no question. In Dundas, in Winchester, and the others, are they even accepting? Are they willing to accept garbage from other
And at what
municipalities?
price?
I'd like to, and if so, at what price? If we only ask that question, I think that would be a good one. It speaks to the options, and that would come back to us first, before being published.
Monsieur Bourgon, c'est possible à ce niveau-là?
Si c'est la directive du conseil, on peut fournir de l'information.
Bon, est-ce que le conseil est d'accord à juste recevoir l'information, pas rien de poster sur le web, sur le site?
Oui, pour commencer.
OK. Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Godin, est-ce que c'est bon? Oui. Merci. Alors, on mettra ça pour un de nos suivis à faire, s'il vous plaît. OK, merci bien. Alors, on tombe à l'item 18B, conseillère Deakin, au sujet des urban crossings, rural crossings,
C'est
I'm
le
sorry.
contraire.
Ouais, excusez.
Merci. So it's coming up on a year since council received a petition signed by over 1,700 residents regarding safety at rural road crossings. Prior to that petition, on April 8th, 2024, council had requested of staff to review all rural crossings. I believe there was a list of 17 of them that don't have four-way stops, for example. So I would like to ask if there's an update from administration on that report, so that we can get recommendations in hand and proceed as effectively and as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. Monsieur Bourgon?
So the administration received access to the portal from MTO not long ago. So we start working on gathering the information. We'll need the assistance of United Counties of Prescott-Russell to make sense of all those values. We basically need to, they're encrypted or not, I don't have the proper
Terminology.
or la bonne façon de le décrire, là, mais on a besoin des comtés qui nous roulent un code pour pouvoir déchiffrer là, les données qu'on a réussi à recueillir. Donc, une fois ça c'est fait, on va être capable de produire le rapport là, pour le conseil.
Est-ce que vous pourriez nous donner une estimation de temps? Alors, et puis en même temps aussi, s'il y a une demande à faire au comté de ma part, moi, ça me fait plaisir de le rapporter parce que ça fait longtemps quand même qu'on attend. Est-ce que tu as un timeline?
Ben, on est en train de fournir l'information.
OK.
De leur côté, eux, ils ont déjà la façon de procéder puisqu'ils le font pour l'équipe des travaux publics, là. Donc, c'est plus une question de fournir l'information.
OK. Fait qu'au niveau de délai, on attend quoi, là?
En ce moment, on vise à l'automne là, pour apporter le rapport. Donc, puis on avait identifié dans notre plan d'affaires que le tout serait complété par janvier 2026.
OK. Conseillère Deakin?
Oui, j'aimerais savoir Maintenant qu'on a accès au portail des données, si j'ai bien compris, est-ce que nous allons avoir accès pour toujours? Est-ce que c'était une demande pour avoir accès une fois, puis il faut redemander à chaque fois qu'on veut recevoir ces données? J'imagine que, je ne sais pas de quel genre sont les données, mais ce serait utile d'avoir accès.
Au portail, ouais.
Oui.
Est-ce que maintenant qu'on a accès permanent, c'est ça?
Oui, exactement. C'était un long processus, mais j'ai finalement accès, là, puis c'est de façon permanente.
OK, formidable, merci beaucoup. Est-ce que le conseil, au niveau processus, est-ce que c'est quelque chose que, au niveau de l'information, disons les nombres de trafic et d'accidents et tout ça, est-ce que c'est de l'information qu'on va avoir accès en tant que conseil ou ça va être un rapport qui dit on a besoin d'un stop, pas un stop, mais une lumière ou quoi que ce soit? Comment ça va nous revenir comment, ça?
Donc, chaque intersection, il y a deux warrants pour décider avec la circulation et le nombre de collisions. Donc, c'est l'information qui va être présentée au conseil à déterminer si une voie à 4 arrêts ou non est requis.
OK. Mais est-ce qu'il y a d'autres conditions, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres possibilités de risk mitigation outside of those four-way stops?
On regarde à d'autres options qui pourraient être implémentées à certaines locations.
OK. OK.
On ne veut pas implanter ces mesures-là à toutes les
comprends.
intersections, puis ça perd, ça tombe moins efficace dans ce cas-là. Mais advenant qu'il y a certains endroits qu'il n'y a pas besoin d'avoir un 4 arrêts, ben, il peut avoir un mérite là, d'implémenter d'autres solutions.
OK, formidable. Conseillère Deakin, follow-up?
Merci. Yeah, I just would like to be clear that my hope is that the report would be more than just four-way stop, yes or no, but some of those other options. Not that I expect those options to be recommended necessarily. That's up to the data and the expertise that we have here, but just so that I can be sure that when that report is going to come, that it will have looked at other practices and making recommendations in the full spectrum of potential interventions in those
Yeah.
as appropriate. Again,
I would
can't
agree.
stress that enough.
Yeah, I would agree. And so just, to put that on record, that council will be expecting full details around that, options and what are some of the other municipalities doing and what's some of the logic. I think one of the important things for us, certainly I can speak for myself here, is that, data-driven decisions for us. And so we can have, okay, at this level, we do this, at this level, we do that. I think that that's really important for this council. So I think I'm echoing that correctly, Councillor Deakin, yeah. Anything else to add? No? Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bourgon. OK. Numéro 19, public consultations hearing, we have none. Number 20, announcements. I've got a few. So this weekend, I had the opportunity of participating with Councillor Deakin, Conseiller Lalonde as well, the raising of the Pride flag celebration, which was fantastic. We had the opportunity, there was a movie shown here as well, and I believe it was well attended. I couldn't be here, but it was a great event this year. I had the opportunity, I believe, that most of council at different times showed up to the Russell Soccer Opening Day celebrations, which was great to see so many kids, and the weather was very collaborative, which is fantastic. And I also had the opportunity, again, with some of the members of council here tonight to participate in trivia night on Saturday that was raising funds for our local Terry Fox Run Foundation, and they did a fantastic job and had a great time, and we almost won trivia, but we didn't. So it was a busy weekend, and I'd also like to add that this morning I had the opportunity to participate. Councillor Deakin was there as well. We had the opportunity to participate for a groundbreaking for Verdun Nordic's new factory. It was a great event, and it was attended by our local MPP, Monsieur Sarrazin, and also our newly elected MP for the region, Giovanna Mingarelli. Thank you very much. So it was great meeting them both there, and they both made announcements for some investments with Nordic Window, which was very positive for that organization. We know Nordic Verdun has been with us for a few years, and it's great to see them doubling down and reinvesting more within our township. I think it's fantastic. I know Monsieur Dagenet was there and members of the EcoDev team. So great to see that moving forward. Great to see that that development happening. Again, that industrial park development is benefits all of our residents in the sense of reducing our dependency, as much dependency as we have on the individual residential tax base, and increasing a bit the industrial and or the commercial tax base, which is fiscally responsible in terms of managing the township. Any other announcements, members of council? Seeing, hearing none, thank you. Item 21, strategic discussion, we have none. Item 22, closed session. So pursuant to section 239(2), 3, and 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, motion to move into closed session at the hour of 7:27. To address matters pertaining to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, to consider matters relating to, 1, proposed land acquisition in Emblem, Report CS 2025-06, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for the municipal local board, and 2K, position, plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried out or to be carried out on behalf of the municipality or local board, and 2, proposed land acquisition in Emblem, Report CS 2025-07, which impacts 2C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for by the municipality or local board, and 2K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried out on or behalf of the municipality or local board, and 3, to review closed session minutes of the regular council meeting, a regular closed council meeting dated May 12, 2025. And so this is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Conseiller Lalonde. I'll call for the vote to go into close. All in favor? And thank you. We are now moving into closed session. Perhaps, yes, thank you. We'll take a 10-minute break. All right. Ouais.